glitch in the matrix stories.
I want to hear all of your glitch in the matrix, unexplainable, weird stories because they are fascinating to me. And we can make this a series. This can be episode 1 because I have plenty of them. This one's my mom's. She was driving from Atlanta to North Carolina. It's the middle of the night. She's on the phone with my grandma, and my grandma is helping her over maps, Google Maps, because my mom was running out of gas and she was panicking a little bit because she was in the middle of fucking nowhere, okay? Finally, over the hill, she sees a lit up, beautiful gas station. So she pulls in, she pumps her gas, uses her card, and then she goes to walk in to pee before she leaves. So she's walking towards the door, and as she gets to the door, her mom called her and goes, "You ran out of gas, didn't you?" And my mom's like, "No, I'm at a gas station. Is my car, do you not see it?" She said, "No, your car's like parked in the middle of nowhere. Where are you?" And she said, I'm at a gas station." And as she's saying that, she goes to pull the door and it's locked. And she looks up and there's a close sign, and she was like, "Oh, I just got gas, that's weird." She turns around, everything's dark. No lights on, no people, no cars, bars on the windows, boarded up windows, a completely abandoned gas station. Ugh, it makes me want to throw up thinking about it. So of course, like any normal human, my mom's like, I've lost my mind, or I've fallen into a different dimension. She speeds off, gets on the interstate, completely weirded out, looks at her gas tank, her gas is full. She got gas at this non-existent gas station. It's not on her credit card history, nothing. They go back, look on maps, there's no gas station there. Never figured it out.
Y'all, if the top of the pot starts spinning, what that mean? Like what I'm supposed to do at this point?
Happening right now. She's been stuck like that for 5 minutes. Oh my god, fuck. What the hell? Oh my gosh, she has not moved. Her foot has been in the same position. What the hell? Is that real? What is happening? She's frozen.
I was told not to share this story because nobody would really care, but honestly, if you're into the glitch of the matrix or serendipity, I think you might want to hear this story because it's kind of weird. When my husband and I were first dating, I had my own apartment and he came over to visit. I had a little decor pillow, and when he picked it up, his face went pale. He looked at me and he's like, "Where did you get this pillow from?" And I'm like, "I don't know, a thrift store?" Like, weird. I don't know. I really did. I got this pillow from a thrift store probably like 2 years before I even met him. Now, my husband and I are 13 years apart. Keep that in mind. And he's holding the pillow in his hand and he's going, "I had this couch." No, you don't understand. I had this couch. This pillow is not like just a gray or a beige or a very generic couch. This pillow is extremely eclectic and very unique. Looking at him and I'm like, what do you mean you had this couch? Like, what does that mean? And he's standing there like, my grandmother had this couch. I had this pillow. Him and his grandmother were extremely close. He's like, you don't understand. Like, this is such a rare couch. Where did you get this pillow? I don't understand. I know went about our day, but we've been together for 10 years now, and he found the picture. This is the picture. That's my husband when he was a little boy and his grandmother. And here's this eclectic couch, right? So look at this couch and hold on. Look next to his grandmother's arm. I've never really told this story because a lot of people could debunk it and say, oh yeah, well, how I can take your word for it. Like, he could have still had the pillow. But it's the honest to God truth. A year or two before I met him, I picked this one random pillow up in a thrift shop. And then like a year later, I met him. And he was like, this is crazy. He's not the one who told me not to tell this story because he loves this story and he doesn't even know I'm sharing this story. What do you think? Is it a glitch in the matrix? Am I crazy? We literally lived in 2 separate states when we met as well. There's the couch.
I ran into a woman in the parking lot when I was 19. We had the intense feeling that we absolutely knew one another, but have never met before. When I was 19, I worked at Walmart in a festival town. I was a cart pusher, and in the summer the store would get overrun with festival goers. On this week, many years ago, there was a hippie music festival going on. The venue was very large, and the population of this small Midwestern town would swell by several thousand people. I remember that I was walking away from the store to gather shopping carts, donned in my blue vest of honor, and there were 2 or 3 young women about my age walking towards the store to enter. They were obviously festival goers and all donned out in their hippiesque regalia. I saw this blonde girl from about 20 feet away, and something about her just struck me with a massively intense feeling of familiarity. We began to walk slowly past one another, and we locked eyes and could not stop looking at one another. Then she stopped, pulled away from her friends, walked up to me and said, I know you. Where do I know you? I told her I was experiencing the exact same feeling. We stood there for 20 minutes while her friends became very impatient and tried to recall past towns we have both lived in, or people who we might both mutually know, but nothing in our histories lined up. Like, not whatsoever in the least. She was from a different state entirely. There was no crossover whatsoever. Eventually we gave up and went our separate ways.
Tell me about something that will forever blow your mind. The Reddit lamp story. The Reddit lamp story was posted by a guy whose username was Timpto2Soon, and this was posted on January 11th of 2012. He was a college football player. He weighed about 125 pounds. One day he's playing football and he's blindsided by a really heavy football player. He says the guy weighs about 325 pounds. He's instantly knocked unconscious. While he was laying there unconscious, he said that he met this beautiful young woman. Whenever he'd see her, his heart would skip a beat. She always seemed to be taken. She had a few really jerky boyfriends, and he just couldn't quite get her attention. Finally, he's able to win her over. And then with just 2 years of them being together, she gets pregnant. She gives birth to a little girl. He has a really great job. His wife doesn't have to work. She gets to stay home and take care of their daughter. Not long after his daughter's born, his wife gets pregnant again, and she gives birth to a little boy this time. He mentions every morning when he's heading out of the door for work, he would peek into his kids' room. He would see them laying in bed, and he would just be completely mesmerized. So happy and in love with his family. Until one day, when he's sitting on the sofa, he looks over across the room at his lamp. He says the lamp is inverted. The lamp was still in 3D, but something was just really off about it. He just could not stop staring at this lamp. He stayed up all night staring at this lamp. The next morning, he couldn't even leave the house to go to work. He completely stopped eating, and he only got up from the sofa to use the bathroom. For 3 entire days, he just sat there staring at this lamp. His wife started to get really worried about him, and she called somebody over to come and check on him. That didn't help, and he just couldn't stop staring at this lamp. His wife got really annoyed by this, so she gathered up their 2 kids and left to go stay at her parents' house. And that's when he had this epiphany. The lamp isn't real. His wife isn't real. The kids aren't real. The last 10 years of his life, they're not real. That's when the lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It took up his entire perspective, and all he could see was the color red. He was hearing all kinds of noise. He started to hear loud screams, and he became extremely aware of pain. All he could feel was so much pain. And the first words that he's heard himself say in days, I'm missing teeth. That's when he realizes that he's laying down on his back on the sidewalk and he's surrounded by a bunch of people that he doesn't know. These people around him were freaking out and he was super confused. He didn't know what was going on. The cops show up and drag him across the ground. They lay him face down in the grass and arrest him. He ends up getting taken to the hospital and they give him CT scans and stuff. The next 3 years, he ends up going through an extreme amount of depression. He's mourning the loss of his wife and his children. His entire life is gone. He thought he was losing his mind. He would cry himself to sleep every night. He said he would still see his wife in his dreams, and sometimes, out of the corner of his eye, he could see his son. And that's what brings us back around to the original Reddit question. Have you ever felt a deep personal connection to a person you met in a dream, only to wake up and feel terrible because you realized they never existed?
If you've never experienced a glitch in the matrix, this is probably not the video for you, so just continue scrolling because you're going to think that I'm crazy. If you have experienced it, I want to know if anyone has experienced anything similar to this, especially from a young age. So I've had multiple glitches throughout my life, especially now that I've gotten older, I can understand what's happening. But I want to talk about the very first one. The very first one that I can remember that I was like, am I crazy or are all of you crazy? So this is around 4th or 5th grade, elementary school. My grandma would pick me up from school 2 to 3 times a week. We were very close. My grandma lived like rock throwing distance from my house. So I would literally travel up the creek through the woods to my grandmother's house that I would go. I would spend all my time with my grandma. So after school, she would pick me up and we would go to Wendy's. That was our thing. We loved Wendy's. My grandma has very prominent blue eyes, like crystal clear. It's a very prominent feature about my grandma that she has very blue, piercing crystal blue eyes. So this one day, she picks me up. We go to Wendy's. We're sitting in the glass area. If you know Wendy's back then you know what I'm talking about. We're sitting there eating our fries and I look up at my grandma and my grandma has brown eyes. They're brown. And so naturally I was like, Grandma, your eyes are brown. And she was like, yeah, Lauren, I have brown eyes. I was like, Grandma, no, you don't. You have very blue eyes. What do you mean you have blue eyes? And she was like, no, Lauren, I have brown eyes. So whatever, we eat. She takes me home and this is the whole thing. I talked to my mom too. And I'm like, Mom, Grandma has brown eyes. And my mom was like, yeah, Grandma has brown eyes. No, she doesn't. She has blue eyes. What do you mean she has brown eyes? Like everyone knows that Grandma has blue eyes and everybody was making me believe that I was crazy. The next time that I see my grandma, 3 days later, my grandma has blue eyes again. So of course I'm like, Grandma, your eyes are blue. Why are your eyes blue? And she's like, yeah, Lauren, I have blue eyes. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? We just had this conversation 3 days ago when you had brown eyes and I told you that you have blue eyes and you're telling me that you have brown eyes, but I know that you have blue eyes. And now that you have blue eyes again, you're telling me that you know you have blue eyes? I'm not crazy. This was not a dream. I did not dream this. This happened. This was reality. I mean, it was like Monday on Thursday. Now you have blue eyes again?
Top 10 Glitches in the Matrix. From my comment section, part 22. My daughter pulled a book out of the bookcase and my current driver's license fell out. She brought it to me asking if I had been looking for it. I pulled out my wallet. The same license was there. At about 11:20 p.m. on the 18th and I was about to go to bed, but I decided to pet my cat once more. And when I looked back at the clock, it said it was 4 a.m. I checked my phone and it was 4 a.m. on the 20th. My dad was visiting my house one day and he lives about 20 minutes away. He drove back to his house in his car. 2 days later, he lost his car keys and I found them in my driveway under my car. It had rained since his visit and I have left multiple times. And no, he doesn't have a push to start car. My family and I took a long road trip to Tennessee. I wore my favorite jean jacket. I took it off in the car halfway down our trip and then we get to the hotel. I put my jacket on a chair next to the door. A couple days later, I went to wear it. It was gone. I was so upset. After a week, we went home. My jacket was on my bed. How? I wore it to Tennessee. When I was a kid, I had this little lemon strawberry shortcake themed figure. I remember purposely setting it on top of my dresser to display. I constantly looked over at it while playing too. Then poof, gone. Couldn't find it anywhere in my room. Days later, it showed back up on the dresser where I left it. Absolutely freaked me out. Once I was making some chocolate milk and I had put the cap of the milk down and put the jug down next to it, turned around to grab the chocolate syrup, turned back, the cap was gone. I looked everywhere, on the floor, on both tables, and then I turned around to face the jug again and the cap fell on my head. Still freaks me out to this day, and no one was in the kitchen with me. My mom had gotten this purple blanket for Christmas one year. It was the kind of material that would stick to your skin if it was dry. She told me one day to bring it upstairs into my closet. I did. Later that day, she told me to put it in my closet again. I told her I did. She then pointed at it saying, "It's right here." I took it to my closet and went to put it away. I was gonna put it where I thought I had put the first one, but it was already there. We now have two of the same blanket and no one knows where the other one came from. Glitch or ghost? I had a childhood toy that I took everywhere with me. It slept on my bed with me at night. One morning, I woke up and it was missing. My whole family gutted my room looking for it. Nowhere to be seen. I was heartbroken. I had this toy since I was a baby. Months later, it was sitting alone on my windowsill. Randomly reappeared one day. My whole family still doesn't understand. When I was 7, the town I lived in had a crossroad. My sister was on the sidewalk and I ran into the middle of the road and an unseen force pulled me 10 feet back to the curb. While the car was mere inches from killing me, my sister went white and said, "You could even see my clothes being pulled by something." And at number 10, my ID, passport, and keys were in a bag that were stolen from an IKEA parking lot. Car was broken into. I filed a report. This was in April. Fast forward to literally 2 weeks ago, my ID and keys were in a bag I haven't used in over a year. Passport still gone. Now I have 2 IDs and 2 sets of keys.
In December of 2022, I shared the disappearing house story to Anti-Matrix, and y'all kind of blew that up, made it go a little viral. I'm soaking in questions and comments on those posts, and because this year is 20 years since that event happened to Kaylee and I wanted to do one long video to recap the entire story, shove in as much detail as I could, and also recap a lot of the questions that were asked of me initially. I have notes, so I'm going to get into it so I don't babble here. All right, so it is May 2004. Kaylee and I have been friends about a year. We are talking about like moving in together, and I have a bunch of newspapers because I'm looking for a new job. I have it for the town that we're in, the town next to that, the town after that, the major city we live in, and so forth. In one of them, I just so happened to see an ad for a house that's for rent, and it's 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It just says the town that we live in, the rent, and a phone number. I call the phone number, I leave a voicemail, a day or so goes by, and I get a phone call back. And very generic conversation with the guy. He's not a realtor. It's like a family home. And he said something like him and his brother are fixing up the house. And I'm like, okay. He's like, it's on this street by the laundromat. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know where that is. It's the other side of town from where I live and all of my friends live. So I'm like familiar, but I don't know the neighborhood very well. We make an appointment. I pick up Kaylee. I am chronically early to everything. We pull into the driveway and we're just sitting there waiting for the time to go in. So I'm kind of just looking around and noticing things. So it is a single family home. There's like 4 or 5 steps up on a concrete porch, and then the house is basically just like a square. It has a driveway. This is the big first thing because Kaylee and I and most of our friends live in townhouses with street parking. If you have ever tried to 1, park in bad weather, or 2, have a party when you have street parking, you know what a logistical nightmare this is. So I'm very excited that there's a driveway. Next to the driveway is, just like he said, the laundromat. And the parking lot of the laundromat kind of like bleeds into the yard of the house that we're looking at. So you could just park there and walk right over. This is great. On the other side, there's a house that has a big tree in the front yard, and there's 3 windows. The middle window is broken. The only reason I can think of for why this stood out to me is because kind of like a safety issue. Like, we're not super familiar with this neighborhood. So like, is it safe for us to live here? The guy comes out onto the deck. Side note here is, I don't know where he would have parked because there was not a car in front of me in the driveway. It's creepy, but it just plays into the entire story at this point. Just anyway, side note. All right, so we walk up the steps, we introduce ourselves. Nothing about this guy is remarkable. He is not giving off any creepy vibes, just like he did not on the phone. He is so unremarkable that I could not tell you what he looked like if there were 50 of him in front of me. I couldn't even pinpoint if it was this guy. He's like 30 to 40 something whatsoever. We walk into the house, and houses in this area were built in like the 40s and 50s. He said him and his brother were fixing it up on the phone, right? But we walk in and it's very dark and it's very dirty and it's very dusty. There's no lights on, and I don't know if the electricity was off or if the lights were off because he didn't want us to see how dirty it was. Also begs the question, why didn't we come in the front door? Why did he bring us in the back door? And I don't have an answer for this. There's a couple windows in the house, and there's like one in the kitchen, and there's a curtain over it, and the sunlight is coming in, and this is our only light. And like you see the dust particles and everything. It's very dirty and very dusty. We walk through into the living room, and there's built-in bookcases. And I'm trying to like focus on like positive things other than like, ooh, this house is gross. Kaylee and I are like avid readers. So I'm like, oh, cool, we have bookcases. But then there's a boarded up window. And I'm like, what is that about? And he says, oh, well, it has to do with the shed that they built outside, which doesn't make sense for the layout of the house being a square. But I'm like, oh, no, whatever. Again, it's not quite a red flag, but it is still a little bit weird. We keep walking through. And at this point, we are heading towards the back of the house, which is the primary bedroom. So we've made a U shape. As we are walking into the primary bedroom, he tells us that we're going to fight over this room because he knows how girls are with clothes. So we're kind of laughing because, you know, that's like an accurate statement. And as we walk in to see this closet, things start to shift a little bit. The closet is, the framing of the drywall is there, but there's no doors. And it is a pitch black hole, like hand in front of your face, you could not see. This bedroom is one of the darkest rooms that we've been in. And again, the dust particles in the sunlight coming in through the curtain. It's very, very dim. And he says something like, oh yeah, that we made it like a walk-in closet. You can walk in, flip on the light switch and go all the way back and see it. And I'm kind of like, if you wanted us to go in the closet, why wouldn't you have left the light on? And I'm feeling uncomfortable, but I'm still trying to like justify things. And we talk about something else, and he tries to get us to go into the closet again. And at this point, it's weird. We have all the red flags. They're fully waving in place. Kaylee is standing behind me, and I can't see her, but I can feel like the tension in her. And I hear her voice in my head, and she's like, we need to get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, I mentally respond to her that I know, but we need to play it cool because if we don't, we're not going to make it out. I don't want to turn and look at her. I don't want to make eye contact. I don't want this man to know that he has gotten to us at all. I want him to think that there is still a chance that we're going to go into this closet, because I felt like if we started to get like aggressive or push back, that it wasn't going to be okay. And we're going back and forth, and we're coming up with excuses about like, oh, we got to meet our friends, or we really don't have that many clothes, or whatever we are saying. And that is the last memory that I have in the house. The next thing I know, we are in my car and we're a couple miles away at a red light. And now we're at the point where multiple things are happening at once. Like I felt like I was seeing myself outside of myself, and none of the things were making sense as they're all happening. And this is very, very fast. Kaylee's talking and her mouth is moving and I can't hear her. The clock on the dash is hours later since we've left the house. We're at a busy intersection that we couldn't have been sitting at for very long because somebody would have honked. Somebody would have rear-ended us before we had sat at that light for more than, one light cycle. None of this makes sense, and I don't understand. And there's this audible popping noise, and then I can hear. And Kaylee is talking like she's been talking for a while, and she's talking about like, I don't know, it's like a project for like our speech class or something. And I think I just blurted out like, how did we get out of the house? And she doesn't know. And we're trying to rationalize it, and the only thing that we can come up with is that we were either going to be kidnapped and held captive in like this closet or SA'd or something, and that in the fight or flight survival mode that we both went into to escape, our brains deemed it not necessary to remember. Look, I know how that sounds, okay? But this is the best that we can come up with. We absolutely, went to our friend's house that night. We were talking, like, I know for sure we came down the steps and we were like, guys, gotta tell you a story. We almost died today, because we are sarcastic and we cope with humor, and that this is who we are. Some time passes and we we're trying to like put this out of our minds, right? Because it's just creepy. We are going to meet up with some friends at a bar restaurant, and the way to get there is to drive down the street that the house is on. And we're going down the street, and I'm just kind of mentally like, oh God, that was such a, just thinking about it again. And as we're coming up to the house is not there. The cutout for the driveway doesn't exist on the road. The gravel of the parking lot for the laundromat is here, and the neighbor's tree is here. And the middle window is still broken, and the house that we went into is not there. And I'm like, that's not real. That's not possible. Kaylee also sees this. We then each also, and I didn't say this in the initial story to not drag it out, but we both initially see this when we're not together as well, that the house is not there. And at that point, we then discuss it. And you can't rationalize this. There was a house that is now not a house in a spot where a house could not have fixed. I realize that sounds insane. So we just pretend like it didn't happen. Nobody knew exactly where we went anyway. Like, they just knew we looked at a house on X street. So it's not like anybody else would have noticed the house disappeared. It was a pretty nondescript house. So yeah, that's what happened to us. I've been asked why we didn't go to the police, and the thing is, we didn't have any physical proof. We did not eat, drink, or touch anything while we were there. We did not shake the man's hand. The door that we went into, the kitchen door, he had left open, so we just walked through the door frame. I'm not a breakfast person, so I didn't eat or drink anything even before we went. So I don't believe that there's any chance that we were drugged, and we would have just been like chastised by the police for not bringing a guy with us to, go check things out. The phone number very quickly deleted out of my, 2004, most likely Nokia, potentially a Motorola Razr cell phone. And I wasn't worried about that because I thought the guy was trying to kill us. I didn't want to keep his information, All right, this is really long. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to make another video where I recap some of the other questions that I was asked, and then I have some new information for you guys. So I will.
Please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you all.